and we're going to pick it up with bar number 1. As you go through this first section, you'll notice that there are different types of meters, and the meter changes from one bar to another, seemingly. The reason for this is because this piece is not supposed to be played metronomically straight. It is more of an atmospheric piece. And so I think by the nature of this prelude, the rhythmic conventions had to be, they have to be held with a loose hand, so to speak, in the interest of creating the atmosphere that perhaps Heitor Villa-Lobos intended to create. Let's start with bar number 1. It's a 2/4 bar, and we have this really interesting opening to the piece. And I'm wondering, why is Villa-Lobos opening the piece like this? Until I started deconstructing this first bar, and it seems to me that what Villa-Lobos is trying to do here, he's trying to introduce the listeners to the pure sound of the classical guitar. And if you pay attention to the bass notes, if you were to just isolate those, you'll notice that they are virtually the open strings of the guitar. And then eventually it gets to that high E, which is a really great way to get listeners to be accustomed to what the classical guitar actually sounds in its natural tuning tonality. In fact, I'm not sure if this was intentional, but if you ever listen to Elmer Bernstein's guitar concerto written for Christopher Parkning, he begins his first movement of the concerto with open strings. Or something like that. So keep that in mind. You are introducing the piece and allowing the ears and the affects of the listeners to get accustomed to the sound of the guitar. So the first bar, we have 2 simultaneous notes played, open E, 6th string, and a C note played with a 3rd finger on the 5th string, 3rd fret. And then a B note played with the 2nd finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret. And now I'm taking exactly the same movement, the same pattern, and moving it down 1 string. And I'm going to play A and F, resolution to E. And I'm going to take exactly the same pattern and moving it yet 1 level lower on the D and the G strings. So I'm playing here D and B flat played with the 3rd finger on the 3rd string's 3rd fret. Resolution to A. I'm taking the same pattern, moving it 1 string lower still, lower in terms of distance from ourselves, but higher in terms of pitch. G and D, resolution to C sharp. And then the final pattern is slightly different. Is B, open 2nd string, G played with a 3rd finger, resolution to F natural this time, which is on the 1st fret of the 1st string. And then we arrive at a C major 7 chord. So let's take bar number 1 once again. For the right hand, I'm using P and M, resolution played with the I finger, P and M again. Now notice also in the dynamics you have a crescendo throughout that bar and then a rallentando, which means a slowing down before the resolution to the C major 7 chord on bar number 2. So let's try that. Now you could play those together as block notes, or you could break them apart. It's a matter of your own personal interpretation, and I would encourage you to be your own artists. The way I play the C major 7 is C note in the bass, play with the 3rd finger on the 5th string 3rd fret, E played with the second finger on the 4th string, 2nd fret, and then 3 open strings, G, B, and E. And for that chord, you could either use a full nail sound, where you turn the thumb somewhat inward to get a warm sound, or you could use the pad. And what I'm doing here, I'm turning the wrist towards the bridge of the guitar to make sure I get the nail out of the way, and when I'm plucking, I'm just using the flesh part of my thumb. And it has a very moody, very intimate type sound. Okay, so bars number 1 and 2. And now, moving forward, we have a 3/4 bar. That should not really affect the way we look at the music, but we have a succession of 16th notes, and this is basically a C major 7 arpeggio. It begins with open E, hammer on to G on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, B, play with the 2nd finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret, hammer on to C, play with the 3rd finger on the 5th string, 3rd fret, and then I'm gonna play an E with the 2nd finger on the 4th string, 2nd fret, open 3rd string G, B, open 2nd string, C, hammer on, open E, G, played with the 3rd finger on the 2nd string, 8th fret, B, played with the 2nd finger on the 1st string, 7th fret, and then C, played with the 4th finger on the 1st string, 8th fret. So let's try that slowly. Okay, thumb on the right hand, thumb again, hammer on, thumb, I, M, hammer on, A, I, M, I. And then I'm going to form a chord that's going to be an all too familiar chord throughout the piece. It's a very interesting chord. So we're landing that final C at the end of bar number 3 with finger number 4. And then now moving over to bar number 4, I'm playing this chord. Now this is going to become an all too familiar chord because it's movable and we're going to use it a lot in this piece. So get used to grabbing this chord properly. F, A, E flat, B, and C. F is played with the 2nd finger on the 5th string, 8th fret. A played with the 1st finger on the 4th string, 7th fret. E flat played with the 3rd finger on the 3rd string, 8th fret. Open B, 2nd string, and a high C note played with the 4th finger on the 1st string, 8th fret. And now I'm going to take the 4th finger, slide it over 2 frets over to D, back to C with 2, and then grab exactly the same chord as the beginning of bar number 4. Not this, but this. Is the same shape, only moved 1 fret over in the 6th position of the guitar. When I say 6th position, that means that the 1st finger hovers over the 6th fret. So bar number 4 goes like this. 1, 2, 3, and 1. That will be bar number 5, the resolution. So let me take the scale one more time. Bar number 3, bar number 4 to bar number 5. Okay, that is the first section of this piece, and now we're going to do kind of a sequential reiteration of that initials of bar number 1. But the notes are slightly different. We're still employing the same open string motif, starting with bar number 5 towards the end and moving into bar number 6. However, the notes are E and D played together. The D is played with the 4th finger on the 5th string, 5th fret. Resolution to C, play with the 2nd finger on the 5th string, 3rd fret. I'm moving the same story, the same motif, one string lower positionally, higher in pitch. A, fifth string played simultaneously with G on the fourth string, fifth fret played with the fourth finger. Resolution to F played with finger number 2 on the fourth string's third fret. Then I'm playing a D and B, open fourth string, and the B is played with the third finger on the third string, fourth fret. Resolution to A played with finger number 1 on the third string, second fret. G and E, the G is open third string, E is played with the fourth finger on the second string, fifth fret. D played with the second finger on the second string, third fret. B and A is played on the first string with the fourth finger, fifth fret. Resolution to G played with the second finger on the first string. And then, rather than having an open sounding chord, we have a slightly different chord. Actually, it's a very different chord. It's an F sharp major chord. And it's a very unexpected chord. This is a bar chord. We placed the first finger over fret number 2. It's a full bar chord. The C sharp is played with the third finger on the fifth string, fourth fret. F sharp played with the fourth string, with the fourth finger on the fourth string, fourth fret. A sharp played with the second finger on the third string, third fret. C sharp and F sharp are already part of the bar chord. Now, if you're a beginner student, you may have a hard time making this chord sound. One word of caution: in your desire to play and in your overzealousness, do not push the envelope. When you start feeling discomfort and pain, especially if you experience shooting pain, just take a break right away. It's not worth injuring yourself trying to really press that chord. Give yourself time. You're going to acquire strength over time. Your body is going to learn how to relax. So when it comes to bar chords, you also may want to experiment with the height of the bar chord. Sometimes the bar chord is a little bit too low, and so you may not have as much leverage. Sometimes you'll find that you are pressing the string right there at that intersection, at that joint, and in our fingers that's a depression, so you may not have as much ability to press on the string. So experiment with the height of the bar chord in order to get a really crystal clear sound. If it doesn't come right away, that's okay. Be patient with yourselves. Eventually, you'll get stronger and you'll be able to make this happen. Okay, so bar number 5, the last part of bar number 5, moving into bar 6 and resolution to bar 7 goes like this. Okay, and now we have a scale that basically is the same F sharp major chord in arpeggio format. And I'm going to start with F sharp with a fermata on it. A fermata, that little eyebrow with an I underneath it, that symbol basically tells you you can hold that note however long you want to. You are the artist, so pause on that note until you're ready to move forward with the scale or with the arpeggio. So F sharp played with the second finger on the 6th string, 2nd fret. A sharp, hammer on to C sharp. Now the A sharp is played with the first finger on the 5th string, 1st fret. C sharp played with the 4th finger on the 5th string, 4th fret. Then E played with the first finger on the 4th string, 2nd fret. F sharp played with the 3rd finger on the 4th string, 4th fret. A sharp played with the 2nd finger on the 3rd string, 3rd fret. C sharp played with the 1st finger on the 2nd string, 2nd fret. Open E note. F sharp played with the 2nd finger on the 2nd string, 7th fret. A sharp played with the 1st finger, 1st string, 6th fret. C sharp played with the 4th finger on the 1st string, 9th fret, and then slide all the way to the 12th fret of the 1st string to play the high E. This scale sounds something like this. And the last note, even though there is a glissando, we still articulate the last note. So glissando and articulation of the note. Again. And that's another interesting, very jazzy chord, I think, very interesting moody chord on bar number 9. A word of caution when it comes to these glissandos, don't reach the note before you articulate it. It's not this. So take your time with the glissando, slow, and time it so that when you reach that high note on the 12th fret, that's when you articulate it as well with the right hand. So, and you may want to also release the pressure during the glissando so that you don't hear the finger rubbing against every single fret and every single half step. Not that, but okay, let's try again, bar number 8. Okay, and let's just stop there for the first part of this tutorial. In the second part, we're going to pick it up from bar number 9.